Give me thumbs up if you can see and hear me very well. And you can see the screen as well.
I can see. Yeah, we can see.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Let me crack on. So good afternoon and good evening, everyone. And welcome to Mastering Text Calculation Service in Dynamics, FSCM. So that's from confusion to clarity. So my name is Yogeshkumar Patel. I'm Enterprise Solution Manager and Architect at Comline Auto Parts. Today, I'll take you through the journey, right, from understanding why behind the global text logic to mastering how to configure it effectively. Um, Before we move on, a quick request to everyone. Please post your questions in the chat instead of raising your hand, as I might not see them during the sessions. During the session, I'll make sure that we'll go to all of your questions at end of it, because many of your questions might get answered throughout the presentations. Okay, so by end of the sessions, what you will learn is how global text concept connects in Dynamics 365. We'll also see real examples of text logic in action. We'll also apply what you learn through practical configuration step, and finally, master the confidence to explain and implement your text scenarios. So let's begin. Before we dive in, let me quickly introduce myself. So I'm Yogeshkumar Patel, and I'm currently lead 365 FSCM project across 3 countries, which is UK, Spain, and currently ongoing with Greece as a part of Comline Auto Parts. I work as enterprise solution manager and architect, designing end-to-end ERP and automation solutions, that is from finance to supply chains. Trying to help business simplifying complexity through smart system design. I'm also a transformation leader, so driving enterprise modernization journey, where technology truly empowers people. Outside of my project, I'm also educator and mentor, and founder of AI Power 365, a learning hub focused on practical real-world Microsoft and AI educations. What drives me is innovations. So applying AI and automation to make enterprise solution more intelligent, efficient, and user-friendly. And on top of it, and above all, I'm also a lifelong learner. So I always exploring the list from Microsoft Cloud and AI technologies to stay ahead of the curve. So that's a bit about me. And now let's move into the real topic, mastering TCS, which is Text Calculation Service. Before we get into the details, let's set up the scope for today's session. So our focus area is very specific. It's going to be TCS, starting from beginning to the end, and that is related to 365 FSCM. We're not here to discuss tax laws or legislations. We're not covering electronic reporting, and we're not going deep into globalization studio framework as well. Those topics are important, but they are out of the scope of this session purely because 1 hour isn't enough for any of them. Our objectives for today is crystal clear. By end of this session, you'll understand 100% how TCS determines, calculates, and posts taxes across different transaction types. Also, you'll learn how to configure, test, and troubleshoot those calculation scenarios across multiple entities and countries. So we'll go beyond theory. We'll actually see TCS works in practice, how to fix it, and when it doesn't behave as expected. Let's start with why we are here today. So the goal of this session is simple, to take something that often feel complex, technical, and hidden in background. So trying to make it clear. So first we'll understand what is TCS actually, what it does, how it fits to Dynamics 365, and why Microsoft built it as a separate microservice. We'll also learn how to simplify text logics, how TCS can automate those complicated rules that used to require endless customization or manual configuration. We'll also look at real business scenarios. So live example shows TCS in action. And finally, you'll live with ability to apply TCS confidently for sure. Okay, here's a quick look at what we'll be covering today. So we'll start with before TCS, so understanding why Microsoft even needed a new text engine, what were the limitations in legacy systems, and what challenges led to this evolution. Then we'll move to what is TCS. We'll explain where I'll explain it to you in a simplest possible way, what it does, how it works, and why it's cloud-based. We'll also unpack core concept. This is where we'll go to a little deeper into architecture, configuration structure, and key features that makes TCS powerful and flexible. And then obviously real scenarios. We'll also wrap up with best practices and Q&As, resources you can use to master your TCS in your own project. So let's click on. Okay, so the problem before TCS. So before we talk about what TCS solves, let's take a step back, look at why it is even needed. So the old legacy, the text engine was static and hard-coded. So it relied on fixed rules that didn't add up easily. So for an example, the UK company sells in UK, EU, and non-EU customers. In legacy text engine, you had to create a separate sales text group for each scenarios. Manually, then you need to assign those groups manually to customers and item, build a combination again, and even yeah, and that's for if your legal entities or companies into multiple countries. Secondly, it had a limited flexibility, so engine couldn't really understand real world conditions. So for an example, if same customer buying goods from UK and EU, you needed two separate tax groups just to manage the 20% local tax and 0% VAT. The system simply couldn't detect delivery countries automatically, which meant multiple setups and frequent errors. And finally, it was too complex to maintain across countries. Each legal entity has its own separate tax group. So it created a duplication, inconsistency, and huge maintenance burden every time the rules or regulation change. So clearly the legacy model worked, but only until business grew more global and complex. So that's exactly where TCS steps in. Before TCS, finance team faced several real issues, which is manual tax correction. So invoice often calculated wrong VAT. So teams fix lines manually, increase errors, slow month-end closures. So cross-checking tax code and vouchers, adds extra days in month-end close. Inconsistent VAT, so different setups across the countries cause mismatch and mismatch reports and reconciliation issues. Poor audit visibility, so no traceable tax document, and consultant dependency. So if you don't have proper in-house team, you have to rely on consultant to do that. Whereas TCS now it's a big step in where you'll see later on the demo, it's more of business user friendly, no code, low code, no code feature. Here's what Microsoft aimed to achieve with TCS, which is Smarter Unified Tax Platform framework, global rollout, so one central logic for all legal entities, even when using different VAT registrations, frequent regulatory changes, so update tax rules once, published globally through globalization studio. Cross-border transactions, so automatically determines the right tax based on origin, destination, and registration country. Integration and extensibility, so it's provide an open API, so ISVs like Vortex or Avalara can connect seamlessly. So in short, Microsoft goal is simple: make tax logic global, flexible, and future ready. So what exactly is TCS? So tax calculation service is cloud-based engine built by Microsoft to automate and standardize tax determination and calculation across countries. It replaces the old hard-coded tax logic that lives inside Dynamics. All tax rules are centralized in one configuration and shared across legal entities, so no more duplication. And because it's built as a microservice, it connects seamlessly with finance, supply chain, and even external systems through APIs. So TCS, basically TCS brings flexibility, accuracy, and consistency. for tax calculation. TCS delivered 5 key benefits that make it stand out. So it's centralized. So as I said, one set tax logic across all legal entities, no duplication, configurable, so update and adjust tax rules easily without needing code changes. It's global, so handle multi-country, multi-VAT scenarios from single configuration. Accurate, so provide consistent, transparent, and audit-ready tax results. It is connected, so as I said, integrate seamlessly with external ISV providers like Vertex and Avalara. So TCSB is basically designed to make tax management simple and scalable, and obviously compliance. Here is a quick look at it before and after TCS. So before, tax logic was hard-coded inside Dynamics. Each country has its own setup, no global views. Finance team made manual corrections and wrote updates. Audit visibility was limited, and even legal entity had to maintain own configurations. But now, after TCS, it's now cloud-based microservice, supports multi-country, multi-VAT logic. Rules are configurable, so no code approach from Microsoft. Every transaction has a complete traceable text document, and setup is centralized and shared globally. Let's look at architecture and data flow. So here is how TCS works behind the scenes. So step by step, from point number 1, transaction trigger. So when user creates or updates cells, purchase or transfer, and click on cells text button, Dynamics collect key details like ship from, ship to, item, VAT IDs. Then text request send. So Dynamics builds JSON payload using text data model and send it securely through Microsoft Text Connector to Azure hosted TCS engine. TCS calculates. So TCS engine applies correct text group, item text group, and rate based on your active text calculation feature, then returns the result. Once results are returned, Dynamics receive those text responses, source calculated text lines, and post them automatically into VAT or sales tax reports. So every calculation here is handled in real time, securely and without manual input. Let's look at what happens behind the scene when TCS runs. So I start with ER, electronic reporting configuration. This defines what data goes in and out, basically the payload structure. Then comes in TCS feature, where you define how tax is calculated. So it's your rate, your rules, your rate, and metrics. Next, TCS engine or Azure execute logic in real time and send result back securely to Dynamics. And finally, when Dynamics receive those results, displays text line and post them into appropriate documents. This slide explained the real power of TCS. So it's more of its decoupled architecture. So when transaction triggers text calculation, Dynamics prepares the document. That document becomes text integration document objects, digital. You can think of it like a digital package, holding all the details like customers, product, VAT, amount. Then text integration facade takes over. It acts as like a central controller, sending data to TCS, getting response back, handling any errors, and writing the results into Dynamics. So each step in process is modular. It's like helper performing specific tasks like retrieve settings, collect data, calculate text, handle error, manage VAT ID, exchange rate, and everything else basically. So this separation means the system is more flexible, easier to troubleshoot, right? And obviously real time, that means it's faster. This slide shows how text calculation service integrate inside Dynamics. So it's all start with the trigger text calculation. So it calls the method text purge calculate text, which passes control to integration layer. Then in the text integration packet calculate method orchestrate the entire flow you see here. So here is how basically happens step by step. So starting from point 1 to 7, so setting retrieval. So it gets the parameter like text features, business process, and rounding rules. Then point number 2, where it gathers all transactional data, customer ship from, ship to, VAT ID, currency, and so on. Then calculation, so it builds a JSON payload, send it to TCS and receives the calculated text lines. Then error handling, so if there is an invalid code or setup issues, the system logs manage it. VAT ID handling, so adjust registration number when multiple VAT applies. Currency exchange, so converts amount if transaction reporting currency differs. And data persistence, so saves text line back into Dynamics in tables like text trans and text document. And this is the data structure that powers every TCS calculations called text document design. So it starts with document object. And this is a full record like sales order or invoice. It holds all header level information and line level information. Multiple lines. Each line object represents one transactional line. For an example, a single item or a charge containing quantity, amount, or delivery details. Then for every line or charge, TCS generates one or more text line objects. This stores the final results like text code, rate, amount, and jurisdiction. And after calculation, these text lines are saved back into Dynamics tables like text trans for posting and reporting. This slide shows how any new business process like new module or transaction type can be integrated with TCS. So it's like you need to identify entry point. Look at where text is triggered, such as text sales calc or text purchase calc, which are for sales and purchase. This is like a switch point before legacy text logic runs. Then add an entrance code. So use a check is text integration enabled for business process. So it tells the system whether to use TCS or old engine. Then three, build the document object. So package all key data like header lines, VAT ID, and amounts into JSON payload. And then call facade, which is send a payload to text integration facade calculate method. So this execute the logic in Azure. And then return and save results. So TCS returns the calculated text lines, which map back to Dynamics visible into sales text dialog in any of the documents. So that 5 key steps. In case of troubleshooting, and if you really want to see the payload, outbound and inbound messages, so TCS allows downloading it. All you need to do is that red highlighted text here, you need to put it at the end of your URL. Then refresh the page. So obviously go back to that appropriate document, refresh the page, and it will download text file for you. When you so text file, I think it's called text service troubleshooting log.tstx. So it's like a text file. This text file contains your text document, and then the calculation parameters helps you to troubleshoot or look deep into your issues. TCS isn't limited to Microsoft's own logic, so it's connected to external text providers, as I said before, Vertex and Avalara, or there are more as of now as well. This integration happens to Universal Text API. And how it works is that the Universal API acts as a standard interface between Dynamics and third-party text engine. You configure the provider inside Dynamics, register the endpoint, environment, and API connection. Then you secure authentication to Azure AD using client ID and secret for token-based communication. Then TCS send the text request. The provider calculates the return rates, validations, and jurisdiction data. Then result then flows back automatically into Dynamics. So it is more of like creating a seamless and unified calculation process. So Microsoft provides the framework, and ISV is like, ISV tools sit on top of it and provide the global text intelligence. Moving to the next lessons, TCS setup is how you do it. So the way I look at it is before version 0.0.38 and after. So TCS worked as a separate separate microservice that had to be installed through LCS. And you had to manually configure things like Azure Key Vaults, endpoint URL, and authentication certificates, and also require TCS feature management enabled, because Dataverse wasn't used back then. Now 10.39 onwards, this CS is now built directly into Dynamics 365 FSCM. So no separate installation needed. All configuration and text features are stored and synced in Dataverse. LCS now only manages environment lifecycles, not TCS deployment. And the Azure TCS engine runs natively inside finance environment for faster processing. The quick guide how to install TCS. So obviously you go to your Dataverse repository, find your Dataverse repository into your globalization studios. And then obviously you need to go to Microsoft published standard TCS and localized model. You need to install them. And then you can see on I think top left hand corner, sorry, bottom left hand corner, you'll see those configuration. Once configuration are imported, next step is to import or create the text calculation feature inside Globalization Studio workspace. So you need to obviously go there. Then you need to select your tab. That there's a tab you can see here, text calculation under globalization service. So from here, you can either import an existing Microsoft provided feature or create your own by clicking add. You can also bring, if you have XML file, you can also bring it here and import it. During in this feature, each version is tracked with a version history, so you can update, test, and roll back when needed without losing earlier setup. Think of this like your master container, where you hold all of your logic, rate, and your applicability rules that TCS uses during calculation. This is how the TCS feature inside looks like. At the top, you'll see configuration. This defines how data flows between Dynamics and TCS engine. Excuse me. Next, you need to select your source legal entity, which act as a reference setup for sharing logic across companies. Under text code and groups, you can define all your text codes group and item text groups. This is your foundation for your text rate calculation. Then under text jurisdiction group, you can define your text jurisdiction groups mainly for countries specifically specified layers like US cities or provenance tax where you need deep text calculation happening. And applicability rules. It is like a brain of TCS. This is where you define all of your rules like ship from, ship to, customer type. Once you have everything completed, your text logic is ready to calculate automatically. And you can see here, there's no coding involved at all. Before we wrap up and move to demo, this is a text calculation parameter screen. So this setup screen activates your TCS for each legal entity. So start by turning enable advanced text calculation toggle box you see here. You turn it on and it switches from the legacy engine to TCS. Then you need to select text calculation feature and its version just to make sure that you got the latest version that you're using. Make a just a quick note here is that only completed version can be used. Under business processes, choose where TCS applies. For example, sales, purchase, your project, or transfer order / stock. On the right hand side, you'll see rounding rules. So defining your rounding rules there, whether that happens by text code or text group. You can also choose how tax is calculated, line-based or total-based. In most implementations, line-based calculation gives the most accurate results. So this screen is basically tells the system when and where and how TCS run for your company. This flow explains how TCS determines which tax to apply during transactions. So it starts when you create your transactions like sales order in Dynamics. System picks up the default sales text group and item text group from master data. Then you click on sales text button and triggers TCS engine. Next, TCS checks both groups against the applicability matrix. If there is a match, it overrides the default group with the correct ones defined in your TCS setup. After that, it finds the matching text code from intersections of those two groups, which is your text group and item model group. And that's what it defines which rate to and rules to apply. And finally, TCS runs the calculations and return the results instantly back into finance. The override sales tag feature, it gives you flexibility to manually adjust text groups when TCS logic doesn't fit your specific cases. So it lets you manually change the sales text group and item sales text group on transactions line without touching the text configurations. It's used when the system applies text incorrectly or when there is a legitimate exceptions like VAT exceptions, customer specific rule, or temporary corrections. So it's also a quick way to fix text at a line level, which keeping TCS active for the rest of the order. So for example, if UK sales order applies the domestic groups by default, but the customer has exception certificate, by switching override sales tag to yes and selecting exempt, system instantly recalculates VAT percent 0 for that line only. A quick note here that if you have a sales text group and item sales text group, fill left blank on your sales order or your purchase order, it override and when you have override sales text option is set to yes, line won't be sent to TCS service for processing. Okay, so now I have 3 demos. So following 3 demos, I'm going to give you an overview of basic TCS. So in first demo, we'll look at how to create text code manual in via CSV import. Then in second demo, we'll understand how TCS determines the right code. And in third demo, we'll see how to look up, configure, and set TCS feature across 2 legal entities. I've pre-recorded all of these videos for you. So starting from the first, how to create text code. The scenario I have here is that we're gonna look at how text code how can you create text code manually and in bulk. So first part is manual creation. So you navigate to your globalization studio workspace, find your text calculation workspace, find your feature, and any amendment, make sure you make it as a draft version so you can make a change. Then you can obviously click on edit. And then to create manually, obviously click add button, define your text code description in your calculation origin. Once you say that, you will see other text code properties, which you can define. In my case, I'm only going to define the rate, which is 20%. So this is 0, so it's going to be 0%. Now that's how you do manually. Now how you can do bulk is that there is an export button. So you click OK, and it creates a zip folder for you. Now this folder, obviously, if you can have ability to amend your file, you can amend directly from that zip folder. If not, you need to extract them in a separate folder to make a change into files. So you'll see 3 files here. It'll also export the existing codes for you as well. So it helps you reference them while creating new one. Obviously, I don't have anything to define here in this file in text limit, so I'm gonna move to the text rate. Define the rates here as well. Once I'm happy, I'm ready, I'll convert that folder back to zip folder. And then switch back to my feature in Dynamics and then click on import button now. As soon as I press OK, it will import all of my changes from those CSV files here, and then you can verify those changes there as well. I just go back. Let me just make sure. I'm just gonna pause it here. It's quite important and easy to miss that every single change that you make sure you complete the feature. You didn't need to publish it, and make sure you update the correct version into your text calculation parameter as well. So marked it completed, and as I said, only completed features will be available for selection on the text calculation parameter. I'm gonna pause here for a sec. Now every new codes that is defined within TCS system requires you to provide settlement period and ledger posting. That's mainly for your finance posting, and only by doing that one, those code will be activated. Now you can either type it manually, or there is on top left hand corner, there's a bulk update option, which you can use it to update all the lines at one go. Now, system for log and audit purpose, it creates a simple Excel file, little Excel file where it records all the changes, which you can save it and store it somewhere else for auditing purpose if required. Now, once those codes are created, you can find them into text and VAT code section. And the first two, and you can see that the source itself is TCS, so you know where it comes from. I'm gonna pause here for a second. Now, in terms of deletions, right, you follow the same process. So obviously create a draft version of your text features. Then you need to manually delete unwanted text. Then you need to get back completed version. Then you need to go to TCS parameters and make sure that you select the right version. Important note here, which you can barely see it. Let me see if I can see it here. It's not moving it. But I don't see if you can see properly, but the note here is that if you have, you cannot delete the code if it is already has active or posted transactions linked to it. So it's just a quick note. Okay, let me move to the next demo, which is understanding TCS, how TCS calculates. So in this demo, we'll walk through the simple example, how to understand how TCS works. We're going to use applicability rules, text groups, and text code, and see how it automatically determines the correct text code. I'm going to pause here for a second. So the business scenario here is that we have a company called Global Parts UK Limited. So it's a company sells products within UK and use TCS to automate text determination for sales order lines. So in this example, the customers and the warehouse are both in UK. And the agreed delivery terms is DDP, meaning that seller is responsible for delivery and taxes up to the customer locations. Here, the configuration which I've used in the demo, which we're gonna see in them in following demo as well. The goal, just to make sure the purpose of this demo is not to replicate the real VAT, UK VAT setup, but just to demonstrate how TCS works behind the scenes. So to defining delivery terms is not actual real UK scenarios. So just bear in mind. If you look at point number 3, you're also going to look at the weightages, how TCS prioritize the weightages or prioritize the rules based on the weightages as well. Okay, this is the expected outcomes as well. I'm going to skip a little bit. And this is the demo time. Let's just go back. Okay, so here we back into TCS Feature Globalization Studio. Obviously, I'm making the draft version of it to make a change. Go there, already pre-created a code called GBP standard. That's for my 20% VAT. VAT rate. Then I also predefine VAT term, which is my tax group, and link that VAT code to it. Then I have item code, and I'm going to link that VAT code here as well. Once that is done, I'll move to my applicability rules. Now I'm going to pause here for a second because it's quite important, the box on the right hand side. So with these systems give you a lot of predefined fields, which you can also find into your text model into your configuration. And basically it gives you an opportunity to use those fields to define your applicability rules. And that is for both header and lines. Make sure you, once you make a selection on the left hand side of that pop-up window, make sure you move them on the right hand side because it's easy to miss as well. So in this case, I have delivery terms, so I move delivery term on the right hand side, and I have my column here. And now I'm going to create the applicability rules as well. Because this is a sales transaction, I'm going to choose my business process, which is sales, is GBR to GBR. And then I'm going to choose my delivery term, which is TTP. And then I'm going to choose my tax group. So I want applicability rule to look at the tax group or use that or hard code the tax group. There's a little icon here, adjust execution sequence here. So if you click on it, you will see a lot of weightages on first column. Now this is where the priority works. So I'm going to pause it here for a sec. The higher the priority, the higher the weight, the higher the priority. So if you have 40, the applicability rule will use that one first. And if you look at two selection here, I have two rules, which is one both for GBR to GBR, but the other ones got delivery terms making additional 10 points for that selection. And therefore, I know that when I choose, when I have a transaction, system is going to look at that applicability rule first time before moving to the second one. I'm also going to define or hard code the item text group based on my site and warehouse. So then I don't need to rely on master data as well, because as I said, this data, these rules here will automatically change those codes on sales order lines or purchase order lines. Now make sure you complete the changes. Note down your version that you have completed. Go to TCS and make sure you update your version to the latest version, or at least expected version. It doesn't need to be latest all the time, but make sure the one that you choose is expected version. Now let's look at tax calculation in testing. So I have a customers, Global Auto Parts UK Limited, as you can see, has a DDP term set up. This is a UK customer and has a delivery warehouse in UK as well. To define my item number. And under setup, you can see the one that you see here that comes from master data. And as soon as I click on VAT or tax calculation here, it will replace those information for me. And you can see it is temporary transaction as well. It's got a right code picked up, and item VAT group and VAT group is also updated. And there is little override VAT option available as well, the button. Let's move to the next one. So setting TCS configuration between legal entities. So this scenario is where I have two legal entities, CAP and ACO. Both companies are UK-based companies operating under the same corporate group. So CAP already used TCS, ACO doesn't. It's currently disabled. But before I use or activate ACO, TCS into ACO, I want to make sure that I look up that information within existing text feature, configure it and then or test it and then activate into the ACO company. But the goal here is to enable TCS in ACO so that both company can use centralized text logic. So then VAT is consistent in both entities. Okay, I'm gonna skip this slide a little bit. You can have a read at it once you have a recording available. But these are some benefits available for the lookup in applicability rules as well, which you can have a read it later. Okay, let's look at them. So we're gonna look at the current setup. So customer is in both company, same customer in both CAP and ACO. So you can see I got Eurotech Component Limited. That's in CAP. That's a Spanish customer. And then in the same customer exists into another legal entities, ACO. Now in CAP company, I have TCS enabled and being used, whereas in ACO, it's currently disabled. Now look at the sales order into a CAP company. We can have a look at the VAT that system has calculated. So it's picked up tp.exe VAT code, 0% VAT on it. And now let's look at applicability rules into ACO as well. So I'm gonna go back into my version. I'm gonna look at this is pretty fine. I already made a change. So I'm gonna look at that change and you can see I already linked. So this little toggle button here, you can see enable lookup feature. This is what allows you to look up information from legal entity that you have selected under this box. So now because I have ACO selected, it allows me to look up that information without the feature itself being activated into the company. So I can look at all those master data in CAP company. There are applicability rules are already predefined, so you can see GBA to ECP. ESP. Yeah, and then you can see I have predefined the text group. Now, let's have a look at it, or we're going to test into ACO company. So I'm going to enable TCS parameter and make sure I got the correct version or expected versions selected here as well. And once that is done, I'm going to pause here for a second. Just make a note here is that if you're activating the new feature, this TCS feature from a legal entity from scratch, make sure system is going to prompt you with this box where you need to, because system has to sync all of existing code into that legal entity and define, so you need to define settlement beginner and ledger posting groups. Again, you can use the bulk update button on the top left hand side corner. So once that is done, activated, then we're going to go to that customer in ACO company, the same customer, we're going to create a sales order. If you go and have a look at VAT, it is the correct VAT code. So now we got centralized feature, and the setup, you can see those VAT groups and item groups applied as well. Perfect. I'm going to close this one now, reset my screen. Okay, multiple tax registration, which is our next phase. Quite important to understand and easy to confuse as well. So in next few slides, I'm going to walk you through the fundamental and core concept of multiple VAT registrations. So this section is really essentials. It lays the foundation for understanding the key building blocks that support multiple VAT registration. So starting from multiple VAT registration feature that allows one legal entity to maintain several VAT registration number across different countries. It also lets you handle country-specific VAT IDs, authorities, and reporting rules under single legal entity setup, which we're going to have a look at it in a couple of demos down the line as well. It ensures that every transaction automatically picks the correct VAT ID and authority based on where the goods are shipped from or to and sold to. So this just make multi-country reporting fully compliant, and it reduces a lot of manual errors as well. So for an example, Contoso Limited UK, if it sells from its Spanish warehouse, system automatically uses the Spanish VAT ID and reports it to Spanish tax authority, not the UK. The next step in multiple VAT tax registration is setting up a number sequence for each VAT registration. The configuration assigned every VAT registration its own document numbering series. So you have that option. You don't have to do it. It's optional, but you can do it. That is for that option is available for all of your invoices, packing slip, purchase order, and other documents you can see on the screenshot here. What it does is it ensures the document numbers remain unique and compliant for each country's VAT registration. If you have a local reporting requirement. So for an example, if you have Contoso Limited uses two VAT IDs, one for UK and Spain, UK invoice might appear as UK INV -001. That's the number sequence. While Spanish invoice can have ES invoice -001. So system automatically picks the correct number ring sequence based on the VAT ID used in transactions. Registration type, this tells system what kind of registration number it is and where it applies. So it's like a template that classifies the IDs such as your VAT number, GST, EORI number, and links them to the right country or region. What it does, it helps Dynamics identify which tax authority governs each registration and prevent accidental reuse of the same number for multiple parties. You can see those checkbox there. It also allows flexibility. For an example, if VAT number is reissued by tax authority, it can be updated easily as well. So for an example, you might have create VAT ID as UK assigned to UK company and linked to HMRC as an authority. Then TCS then knows this is your main VAT registration for UK reporting and settlement. Registration categories, this is where we group similar registration types together. So it's like a logical group that bundles multiple registration types serving the same purpose. So for example, VAT IDs, EOI numbers. It helps Dynamics organize and identify which registration belongs to same tax family or domain, such as VAT or customs. This is especially useful when your company operates in several countries using different registration IDs for the same text domain. So, for example, the VAT ID category might include VAT ID underscore UK and VAT ID underscore ES and FR. Then TCS then knows all these IDs belongs to that VAT domain and applies correctly in a transactions or on of your reports as well. Legal entity registration IDs. This is where you store actual VAT numbers belong to your legal entity for each country and registration type. So it defines your company official VAT identity. So these are what TCS uses to identify the seller side VAT registration during transactions. So whenever transaction take place, TCS automatically picks the correct VAT number based on your shift from locations and registration logic. So for example, in this example, you can see Command UK can store two VAT IDs GB123456 and UK for UK and ESP12356 for Spain. So when goods are shipped from Spain, TCS automatically use Spanish VAT ID for compliance and vice versa. Multiple VAT registration is defined for primary addresses for country or region. So it's a simple flag on each legal entity address that marks which one is the main address for that country. So TCS used this to decide which address or VAT registration to apply when your company has multiple countries addresses. So it directly impacts your ship from location and determines which VAT ID used for transaction. So same example, Comline UK has addresses in both UK and Spain. Set the UK address as primary for UK and Spain as primary for Spain. And when you create a transactions shipped from Spain, TCS automatically applies Spain VAT and vice versa. The next setup connects your VAT registration to government tax authority. So this is who you report to or pay VAT to. A master record that represents the tax authority receiving your VAT reports and payments. So for example, HMRC in UK, AET in Spain. It defines who you report to and ensure the correct VAT registration number is linked to that authority. This links allows TCS and VAT reporting to automatically route submissions and settlement to the right country authority. So example here again, if your tax authority is HMRC and tied to VAT ID UK 123456, then likewise for Spain, AET would connect to ASP 12356. And remember, if VAT number changes or expired, it must be manually updated both the tax authority and VAT settlement period as well under those setups. The next setup is VAT registration setup for VAT settlement period. So it's a record that defines the frequency and period for VAT reporting for payment, for example, monthly and quarterly returns. So this setup groups transaction under the right VAT registration and control when they are reported or settled with tax authority. So it ensures that every return uses the correct VAT ID and reporting cycle. So again, example, VAT ID UK 12356 might be assigned to quarterly settlement period linked to HMRC, while ESP 12345 in Spain could follow the monthly schedule for EET reporting. So this defines when VAT reports are due for your company. Warehouse addresses. So it's the physical location of your warehouse. So it's the inventory origin for all your sales and transfer orders. So this defines shift from country, which TCS uses to decide which legal entity VAT registration applies and which tax rates to use. So essentially, it connects your logistic to tax logic. So it ensures that transactions are tax based on where goods actually shipped from. So example here is that if a warehouse is located in Spain, then ship from country is Spain. TCS automatically applies Spanish VAT ID for that transaction, even if company headquarters is in UK. So this step ties physical movement to goods directly to your correct VAT logic as well. Primary for country and regions for your customers and vendors. A flag that marks the main address for each country under customers and vendor records. So this helps TCS automatically picks the right ship to or invoice to country when a partner has offices into multiple countries. It ensures that tax is applied using the correct VAT registration. So for example, if customer has address in both UK and France, you mark each country's address as primary for that country. That way, when shipping to France, the CES automatically applies the French VAT registration, not the UK one. So this is this slide is basically a realistic example where we have a customer, global customer, multiple offices in UK, Spain, Bosnia. The primary for country region flag marked for main address for each country. Certain TCS knows which VAT registration number to use. So for example, here is that when selling to worldwide customers, TCS check the addresses. If goods shipped to Spain, it uses Spanish VAT ID. If it's from UK, it uses UK, and if it is Bosnia, it uses Bosnia VAT ID. Um, the customer and vendor registration IDs. So this is how you store your customer vendor registration ID. So it stores your official VAT or registration number for each countries. So TCS uses these IDs to identify which registration applies to for that transaction. So same customer with three VAT IDs, worldwide customers, UK 000, ESP 000, and Bosnia 000. When invoice is created, TCS automatically pays the correct registration ID based on the SIP2 or invoice to country. The old classic text VAT number field. So this displays the actual registration number used for each transactions. You don't have to define it. TCS will automatically fill that information for you or use it during transactions. Again, example here is that if it's Spain, shipped from Spain, system knows from those registration ID defined on addresses which registration ID to use. So in this case, it's going to be Spanish registration ID. Customer vendor tax registration applicability rules. So you can see there is a section specifically for both two sections specifically for customers and vendor tax registration applicability rules. This is the optional rule where you can define your registration ID by customer or supplier. If you don't use that one, if you do not define anything here, system will go and look at registration or try to find registration ID from master data, which is from your customer or vendors. If you define here, this takes priority precedence over the addresses. So in this case here, you can see I got you for UK and Bosnia. I don't have a Spanish one here. So if I create an order for a Spanish environment, system is going to come here, look at here. If there's no applicability rules, then it's going to go and try to find that registration ID from customer master data. There's also a data entity available for registration number. So if you wanna bulk import your registration number against master data, you can use this data entity. Is standard data entity available out of the box. And this brings to text registration number or document lines. So you can see there are a couple of checkpoints available here. So there's a validation options for text registration number on document lines. This ensures that accuracy when one legal entity operates in under several VAT numbers. This prevents posting mistakes and keeps every document compliant and traceable. So for an example, imagine a company with two business units, one in UK, one in Spain. If customer places a single sales order that includes item um, from both, system automatically handles each line with the right VAT ID and even split invoices accordingly. It just keeps everything clean and compliant. Another parameter available here for split, that's under sales ledger or account receivable summary updates. It tells system to automatically split sales documents such as your confirmation, packing slip or invoices. So when multiple registration numbers are used on a same order, it can split based on this configuration here. Okay, let's look at, I'm going to walk you through two demos explaining multiple VAT registrations. So first one is going to be on purchasing side and the second one is for the sales. All of those fundamental points that we covered, you're going to see them here as well. Again, there's a bit of introduction here, which I'm not going to read through, but you can have a look at it once we have recording available. Here is what we're going to look at, that we have a vendor, two vendors, one in UK, one in Spain, and we're going to look at 4 different scenarios within this purchasing, where the UK vendor supplies to Luton UK warehouse. It use standard 20% VAT and use VAT registration number linked to UK entity. If the same vendor uh, ship goods to or deliver goods to a Spanish warehouse, then it use Spanish VAT number, and look at the reverse charges that you see here. In a second two demo, in the second scenarios, you can see there's another Spanish vendor, CS0022, which is where the same vendor ship goods to UK. So obviously reverse charges applied, and it has to use UK VAT number. And then if they supplies locally to Spanish environment, the Spanish warehouse, it use Spanish VAT number, and then use standard 21% VAT. Prerequisite configuration, so it's the same configuration that we looked at just before. So make sure you have those parameters enabled. Make sure you have registration type for both countries and link to VAT authority. Make sure you have registration category set up. Make sure your legal entity has 2 addresses, and registration numbers are also linked to those addresses as well. You need to link your VAT registration number to your settlement period as well. And I have 2 settlement period purely because of photo reporting purpose. Now let's look at 2 vendors. I have 2 vendors, you can see here. And then I have 2 warehouses that is under CAP legal entity, Luton and Spain, so UK and Spain. And you can see the address is set as primary. Now go back to TCS feature. I already predefined those VAT codes here. So there are 6 of them, and I defined the rates as well. I have also 4 tax group which I have defined to meet this requirement, and attach a tax code to them as well, and same as to item groups as well. The item underscore standard, the second one that we're looking at. Scrolling down into applicability rules. I have 4 applicable rules, as you can see here. That is from those 4 scenarios. So CB from UK to UK, UK to Spain, Spain to UK, and Spain to Spain. Let me just go 1 second back. You can see I've used CIF from country region, and you can see I've defined EU. Those are your enums, which is you can find them on your data models as well. Okay, so let's make sure that the feature is completed and linked to TCS parameter. It's quite easy to miss once you have a habit of doing it. Let's see here. So let's look at scenario 1, which is UK to UK. So up here, you can see the UK supplier, UK vendor is delivering to UK warehouse. And when we look at VAT, it creates that standard 20%, and then it's a VAT registration number also for UK. And also it updates those properties here on the line sections. The second scenario, where we have a same vendor supplying to Spain. So you can see the same vendor, and now it's supplying to Spain warehouse. look at VAT number here, VAT here. I'm going to pause here for a sec before it moves on. You can see it calculated reverse charges as per our applicability rules, and also picked up VAT register number for Spanish warehouse, and also updated those properties. Third scenario, we have a Spanish vendor supplying to Spain warehouse. So locally, so we are expecting 21% VAT. Going to VAT, you can see the standard and Spanish register number applied as well. And the last scenario where we're going to look at Spain to UK delivery. And we're expecting reverse charges as well. It's 20% VAT applied here. And so as a UK registration number, you can see that. Perfect. Now I'm going to move to the second scenario, which is on sales order side. So I have a business scenario here where I have a same customer with 3 different branches. So UK, Spain, and Bosnia. So UK company, we sell it to this international customer called worldwide customer. And then you're gonna look at here. I'm gonna pause here for a second before it moves on. Is that we have this customer with 3 different addresses, delivery address, and we want to make sure that system A calculates the correct code or use the correct code, and B picked up right VAT number as well. Now, as you can see, for the company, I have put up all of these 3 addresses and registration ID set up for them. I make sure that I also have registration type, district tax authority and country. For all 3 countries, make sure registration categories are also set. These are all prerequisites and important, because if you miss any of this, a system will prompt you with an error message. Make sure they are linked to correct authorities as well, and this is mainly for your reporting purpose. And then also settlement period. Make sure you have VAT registration number IDs linked. Coming back to the feature, I already have a completed version, so I'm gonna go and have a look at that one. I'm gonna scroll right at the applicability rules, and I'll show you the existing applicability rules. You can see here the 3 selected here, and I also have I'm defining my site-wise item tax VAT code, and also I'm gonna pause here for a sec. You can see in this example, in this demo, I have a customer with 3 addresses, but I only defined 2 registration number here, and I'm expecting system to pick the Spanish registration number from master data. Make sure the correct version is also linked to your number there, and I'm gonna go switch back. There was a little bit because it was, I just blink off it, it moved. I'm gonna say something quite important here. I stop here for a sec. If you look at this parameter over here, this is what it decides where to use your registration number from. So if you turn it on, it go and have a look at your registration number from your master data. Now I have this customer with 3 different addresses, as you can see, and I have set up a registration number for those addresses as well. I made them primary for their country region, so then its system knows which registration number to use. Now the first scenario is delivering the UK address. So expecting 20% VAT and UK registration number, as you can see on the top, UK 12345 and standard VAT. And also, as you can expect, those properties updated down the underlying sections. Second scenario, which is now delivering same customers delivering to Spanish warehouse. Then you got Spanish register number, and then obviously 0% VAT is also calculated. And then third one is for Bosnia. And you can expect the register number for Bosnia is also updated there as well. Perfect. Let me go back to my slide. The next one is tax on transfer orders. This is a new feature as well. So TCS handles transfer orders as well. So these are like your movement stock between your warehouses in a different VAT registered countries. So when you enable a stock option under TCS feature, parameter feature, under the drop down, system applies tax logic on transfer orders, just like for the sales and purchase orders. It ensures that VAT is correctly calculated between intercompany warehouses or cross-border transfers. So then your stock movement is also compliant. So for an example, if your stock transfer from UK warehouse to Spain warehouse, applies the UK VAT ID at the shipment and the Spanish reverse charges at receipt. There are some prerequisites, quite important setups that you need to make sure before you start using your transfer orders. You can have a look at the slides later as well. And let's look at the last demo. Now I got a full business scenario here where I'm shipping from, you can have a read through those scenarios later, but this is where I'm shipping goods from UK to Spain, and I want to make sure that system A calculates correct code and B register a correct user register correct registration ID. So again, I'm just showing you the same setup which I've done it. So got registration ID setup against legal entity. I have registration type also configured, same as the registration categories. Make sure that the authorities has VAT registration ID linked. And so as make sure I have settlement period for each authority as well. And then now make sure I have my transit warehouse set up and linked to my original warehouse. And now look at here, I've got here under features, I got 3 tax codes set up to fulfill my requirements. So that's the standard and reverse charges. 2 applicability rules, which I'm going to go, so I can stop there for a sec. And you can see I've selected as a business process, I've selected inventory, which is a stock, which is your transfer orders. Then ship from and ship to countries, which is UK to Spain. Then first line for output, which is for your shipping, input for receiving, and I've selected my tax group there as well. Same goes to my item group validity. I assigned to, again, you can, this is a benefit of adding that, having that managed column. If you can look at here, point number 1, which is where I've used a business process inventory. So if you look at the weightages, it becomes 30 points. So it's going to prioritize over the second line on the screen. Okay, make sure that version is completed and linked to the CS parameter, and make sure you have business process as stock selected to activate for transfer orders. Make sure you also have multiple VAT registration activated, obviously. And now let's look at your transfer orders. So I've got this transfer order where I'm shipping from Luton to Spain. Same legal entities, 2 different warehouses registered in 2 different countries. I look at shipping weight number. You can see it's a standard GBP and got, let's go back for a sec before it runs away. It uses a VAT register number for UK country and also counterparty register number for Spain, which is just a shipping address, delivering address. And then looking at the receiving side, you'll see the other side round. So you can see your reverse charges, and then you have your weight register number for Spain and counterparty for UK. If you want to print this information for your transfer order, a couple of ways three ways to do it. Three documents available. Once you have your transfer order received or completed, you can go back to your inventory management or stock management module, go to your inquiry and reports, transfer orders. The first one is for your shipments. There is a checkbox available, tax information, that allows printing of those tax information on your reports. And there you go, you have those registration number printed there as well. For receipt, you got a similar thing, same checkbox. Actually, turn it on. And then you have those registration number printed as well. And the last document itself is transfer overview. These are out of the box predefined report, predefined SSRS reports. And there you go here again as well. Let me move back to my slides. Few final bits I want to wrap it up before we wrap it up actually. There's a list code applicability rules, which I haven't got a demo prepared, but I've created a business scenario for you. So this is where UK distribution company and as you know, with multiple warehouses serving in single EU customers. So you can see scenario where I got UK Global Distributor Limited, primary warehouse in Luton, and a second smaller distribution hub in Belfast, Northern Ireland. The company sells to single customers. I call Iris Importer based on Republic of Ireland. So what we need to do is in scenario one, if the goods are shipped from Belfast hub to that customer, it requires for intra-community supplies under Northern Ireland Protocol. This transaction requires EU trade list code, whereas for Luton, which is in UK, which is in Great Britain, you do not require any of the list codes. So to accommodate this requirement, we configure list code applicability rules based on the warehouse Luton and the Belfast, and set list code as include not and EU trade respectively. Once those changes are saved, and once you have your feature mark completed and list linked to your TCS parameters, system automatically update the list code on your sales order header based on the site and warehouse use on the sales order. Absolutely amazing. The last scenario is tax jurisdiction scenario. Very rarely used, but it's used for multinational companies with a single legal entities, multiple tax jurisdictions. You can have a read through these scenarios later. But we have a customer in Germany and Belgium, and they have specific requirements by jurisdiction. So what you do here is you go to your tax jurisdiction parameter under your tax calculation feature, create your jurisdictions for both countries, select your parameters which are required for obligation, then switch back to the other tab. You can see into the second screenshot there. Then you can apply put your jurisdictions group or link your jurisdiction group to your invoice to country as well. Reporting, there are three key reportings: intrastate EU sales list and VAT declarations, all supporting multiple VAT registrations. I'm gonna keep it brief here, but you can find a full step-by-step guidance on Microsoft Learn using this link below. Few information on ISVs. So we talked about ISV integrations. We're referring to the certified tax engines like Vertex or Avalara. So that extend Microsoft tax capability, especially for the region with a very complex or jurisdictional rules like US and Canada. So these integrations handles multiple state, country, and city tax calculation automatically in real time. which is something native TCS isn't designed to manage at the level of details. So they also stays continuously updated as tax laws changes. So the rates and rules are always current with minimum maintenance. Because of the seamless API connection through TCS, business can now scale for high volume transactions while maintaining their compliance and accurate reporting for their own jurisdictions. Universal Rate API is what makes this integration between Dynamics and third-party text engines so smooth. So it's like it acts like a single unified endpoint that any certified ISVs, just like Vertex and Ivalera, can connect to using plug and play design. So that means no more separate custom integration or hard-coded connectors for each provider. Because it's built with a common standard, maintenance become easier. Only one API layers need testing and updating. And as they say, it's future proof as well. So that means that any ISV releases on new features are all also being handled by them and also compliant as well. Again, ISVs themselves also real time operates in real time as well. Some key features here for Vertexes as well, which you can obviously have a read through separately. I just put this slide here for informational purpose only, or educational purpose only. And when you can use Vertex, it's when you have high transaction volumes, complex multi-state jurisdictions, or frequent access changes. So you can use Vertex or similar ISVs. Few steps on version support as of October 2025. So always make sure that TCS configuration version matches to your Dynamics FSCM version. You can import the right version from Globalization Studio into Dataverse. If the version doesn't align, it can cause an issue. You might miss features as well. So make sure you have the right feature, and keep an eye on obviously keep an eye on the Microsoft documentation. As of October 2025, TCS is available across all major regions, not everywhere. The major regions include Europe and the UK, North America, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific, and Latin America. So if you see your country here, you could. If not, you have to either rely on the standard legacy system or the heavy localization, for instance, for India. The text calculation service supports all major transaction types across Dynamics. So that includes your sales and purchase document, transport or project journals, GL, general ledger, and periodic journals, and pre-tax, and also, or you can say advanced invoices. The roadmap, so Microsoft vision for text calculation service is clear. This is a scalable cloud-based engine that's decoupled from ERP. And works seamlessly across all Dynamics 365 applications. So the current roadmap focuses on performance, localization, and no-code configuration through Globalization Studio. In the long term, Microsoft plan to fully coverage the legacy global text engine into TCS. Deepen integration with, I think, ER and e-invoicing that is coming through for most of the countries. And it also enhanced partnership with ISVs like Vortex, Evalera, and there is something called SoWAS. Microsoft's strategic direction for tax calculation services focusing on three key areas. So first is technology evolution. So moving fully to the cloud native microservice architecture with continuous delivery of update and unified platform across finance and supply chain and commerce. Also ecosystem integrations where we talked about ISVs. And third is compliance and governance. So ensuring that full audit trail traceability and support global digital tax format like SSI or SAFT. And I will now open for any questions that you might not answer during this presentation so far. I put together a listing of common questions. There are around 30 questions that will supply to everyone after this presentation along with this presentation slide. So please feel free to ask your questions. Ramit?
So,
Hello, can you hear me?
hey Yogesh, I can hear you. Sorry. There is no space in the office. So I just came outside. I was waiting to come
Okay.
outside. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. For
No,
some
no, that's
reason, I can't
fine.
turn on my camera. So
No,
I'm
that's fine.
outside.
If anyone has a
Yeah.
questions,
Yeah,
please
I think it
ask.
was a great session. Yeah. Is am I audible?
I can hear you, Ramit. What I was going to say, because we already, I think, 90 minutes on this call, I'll set
Yeah.
these local questions, the common question which I have put together to you along with the slides, which you can put it there.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
if anyone has any questions, please send it out to me, and we'll definitely reach out to you within next 2 days.
Yeah, definitely. That will be great. I must thank Yogesh that for your detailed demo. And this is one of the best demo I have seen. Every possible scenarios you have covered. I have two questions since I have also implemented some tax calculation service in UK.
Mm-hmm,
I had two questions for you, Yogesh. You remember there is a rule like you can import tax rate, right?
mm-hmm.
But do we have any data entity for the tax group and the item tax group configuration? Or do we have any functionality which we can just export from one environment to another environment? Something like that?
So the answer to your first question, right? Yes, there is no data entity available for text group and applicability rules, right? And the reason for that one is that it's if you import rather than if you are on a UI and if you try to do it, then it makes sense, um, um, as opposed to you trying to import, because you know what you're doing, and most of the times the number of text group and item groups and applicability rules are low in a number. So I presume that is the reason Microsoft is not giving out of the box entity for it. I'm not sure if there are any plans to do that one as well, but as of now, there is no. In terms of importing to different entities, right? What you can do is you can use the same configuration and then attach it to your default legal entity as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So my second question was not related to entities. My question was related to environments. I suppose I have configured the whole setup in UAT, and now
Mm-hmm.
I need to move this to production, right?
Aha. Okay, yeah, I've got you now.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
yeah, there are two ways to do it, right? You can either from your text feature, if you go to your text features screen, you can export your feature entirely, and then you can import back as it exported an XML file, and then you can import in your production. Or the best practices which I normally suggest is that you can have your CI/CD pipelines, because all of your configuration stores into Dataverse repository. Make sure you use a CI/CD so you move from dev to UAT to production at that way as well.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. I think we can wrap up.
Yep.
We have only 10, but we had around 30, 34 people joined. I think it was a great session. Thank you so much, Jogesh, for your time. I hope you have a lovely week. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.